Ladies and gentlemen, we often find ourselves caught in the illusion of perfection, chasing an ideal that always seems just out of reach. But what if I told you that this pursuit is like chasing a mirage in the desert? The truth is, you are not incomplete, you are whole in this very moment. Life isn't a ladder to climb, it's a dance to participate in. Yet so many of us hold back, waiting for the perfect step, the perfect version of ourselves, before we feel worthy of joining in. But here's the secret. You are enough right here, right now. Today I invite you to let go of the act of trying to prove yourself and step into the rhythm of life. Stop postponing your self-worth and embrace the profound truth that your value is intrinsic, woven into the very fabric of the universe itself. Ladies and gentlemen, we often find ourselves caught in the illusion of perfection, an endless chase for some future version of ourselves that we believe will finally be good enough. We imagine that if we could only fix this flaw, achieve that goal, or acquire this thing, then we would finally feel complete. But what if this pursuit is nothing more than chasing a mirage in the desert? What if the idea of needing to become something more is itself the barrier to realizing you were never less? The truth is simple yet profound. You are not incomplete. You are whole in this very moment. Imagine a child learning to walk. They stumble, fall, and wobble, but never do we look at that child and say they are not enough. We see their efforts as part of their growth, a natural expression of life unfolding, and yet, somewhere along the way, we forget to afford ourselves the same compassion. We start to believe the story that we are unworthy until we meet some arbitrary standard, forgetting that life is not about reaching a destination, but about being present for the journey. This illusion of perfection is a game we've all been tricked into playing. Society whispers in our ear from the moment we are young, telling us to strive, to compete, to achieve. It sets before us a ladder to climb, promising that with each rung, success, wealth, recognition, beauty, we will finally feel whole. But the ladder is an illusion, endlessly extending into the clouds. The more we climb, the farther the top seems to be. In spite of the fact that what we fail to realize is that the ladder isn't leading us anywhere real. It's simply distracting us from the truth beneath our feet. Life is not a ladder, it's a dance. A dance doesn't have a fixed endpoint. Its purpose is not to finish, but to be experienced, moment by moment, step by step. And yet many of us sit on the sidelines, reluctant to join, waiting until we feel ready, until we feel enough. But readiness is a myth. The music of life is playing right now. And by holding back, we miss the beauty of the song. Sibosa. The acting like you are enough isn't about arrogance or ignoring growth. It's about recognizing that your worthiness to participate in the dance has never been in question. Think about it. The trees don't ask if they're tall enough to be worthy of the sunlight. The ocean doesn't pause to wonder if its waves are strong enough to meet the shore. Nature simply exists as it is, unapologetically whole in every moment. And why should we, as part of this same great tapestry, be any different? To act like you are enough is not to declare yourself finished or perfect, but to embrace your inherent value as you are. It's not about abandoning growth or improvement, but about letting go of the need to earn the right to be here, to take up space, to be seen and heard. When you let go of the act of trying to prove yourself, something remarkable happens. You free yourself. You free yourself to show up authentically, to express who you are without the burden of constant self-judgment. Authenticity is not something you earn. It's something you uncover when you stop pretending to be anything other than what you are. This freedom allows you to engage with the world, not as a competitor in a race, but as a co-creator in the dance of life. The truth is, you are not separate from the universe. You are an expression of it. Just as a wave is not separate from the ocean, you are not separate from the great flow of life. Your existence is proof enough of your value. By acting like you are enough, you align yourself with this cosmic truth. You stop resisting the rhythm of life and begin to move with it. And in doing so, you discover that the very thing you were searching for, the sense of being enough, was within you all along. So today I challenge you to step off the ladder and onto the dance floor. Stop postponing your worth to some distant future, some higher rung of achievement. Look around, listen to the music, and realize that the time to join in is now. You are enough. Not because of what you've done or what you will do, but simply because you are here. And that, my friends, is more than enough. Ladies and gentlemen, close your eyes for a moment and picture this. You are standing in a vast open field surrounded by nature's beauty. The trees sway gently in the breeze, the sun warms your skin, and the sound of birdsong fills the air. In this moment, nothing about you needs to be different for this experience to feel complete. You don't need to run faster, climb higher, or shine brighter for the field to welcome you. It simply does, just as you are. Yet, when we open our eyes and step back into the world of expectations and comparisons, we forget this truth. We forget that our worth has never been contingent on doing more or being more. It simply is. End of. Many of us walk through life carrying a quiet, unspoken belief that we are not enough. We believe we must earn our place, prove our value, and justify our existence through achievements, appearance, or the approval of others. This belief burrows deep into our minds, shaping our actions and our sense of self. We chase goals not because we desire them, but because we think they will make us worthy. We strive endlessly, often running on empty, in the hopes that someday, somewhere, we will finally feel like we measure up. But what if this belief is a lie? What if the endless striving isn't leading us closer to fulfillment, but pulling us further away? We've been conditioned to believe that life is a problem to solve, a race to win, or a puzzle to complete. We forget that life in its purest form is simply to be lived. The grass doesn't strain to grow, it just grows. The river doesn't force its flow, it simply flows. And yet, we humans seem to believe that we must labor endlessly to be worthy of the sunlight, the rain, and the love that surround us. This belief in our inadequacy often blinds us to the beauty of the present moment. When we are consumed by thoughts of what we lack or what we must become, we miss the richness of what already is. We overlook the simple joys, the warmth of laughter, the comfort of a kind word, the quiet satisfaction of being alive. Acting like you are enough isn't about denying growth or rejecting ambition. It's about undenying fear of what it is to be human. It's about confronting your internal resistance, and it's about reclaiming the ability to appreciate yourself as you are in this moment without condition or judgment. Consider this. A child doesn't worry about whether they are good enough to play or laugh or create. They simply do. They draw wildly without worrying about staying within the lines. They sing at the top of their lungs without caring about hitting the right notes. And they tumble through life with an openness that many of us lose as we grow older. Somewhere along the way, we start to believe that our value is tied to our performance. Ever more separate is our greatness. This is the key to life. We begin to filter our actions, measuring each one against an impossible standard. We lose the freedom that comes from knowing, deep down, that we are enough. When you act like you are enough, something extraordinary happens. You stop living in fear of judgment, failure, or rejection. You start to see that your value isn't conditional, and your worth isn't a prize to be won. It's always been there, waiting for you to recognize it. This shift is liberating. It allows you to move through life with a sense of ease, to express yourself authentically, and to connect with others without the constant need to prove anything. You are a part of this universe, just as the stars, the oceans, and the mountains are. You were not placed here by accident or as an afterthought. Your existence is a testament to your inherent value. The same force that moves the tides and lights up the night sky flows through you. To act like you are enough is to align yourself with this truth, to step into the flow of life and embrace your place within it. If you witness anything else, it will not be this. Focus on the light, this pure light. So let go of the notion that you must wait for a perfect moment or become a perfect version of yourself to deserve happiness, love, or peace. The perfect moment is now, and the perfect version of you is the one that already exists. You don't need to do anything more, be anything more, or have anything more to be worthy of the dance of life. You are already enough. You always have been. Every person here today has felt it. That quiet whisper in the back of your mind telling you that you're not enough. Maybe it's the weight of comparison, the idea that someone else is smarter, more accomplished, better looking, or more deserving. Or perhaps it's the nagging belief that something within you is missing, broken, or not quite right. We carry this with us like an invisible burden, adjusting our actions, words, and even dreams in an endless attempt to become something we think will finally make us whole. But the irony is, the wholeness we seek isn't found in becoming, it's found in recognizing. Recognizing that the very idea of not enough is a fabrication, a story we've been told and retold until we believed it to be true. Think about how you interact with others. When you see someone stumble, do you immediately judge their worth? Or do you see their humanity, their vulnerability, and perhaps even their courage in continuing despite their missteps? The truth is, we often offer others a level of compassion and understanding that we withhold from ourselves. We see their value as innate, something they possess simply by existing, yet we convince ourselves that our own value must be earned. This contradiction is one of the great tragedies of being human. We are often kinder to others than we are to ourselves. When you act like you are enough, you are not pretending, you are not faking confidence or ignoring your imperfections. What you are doing is rejecting the lie that your worth is conditional. You are stepping into a truth that has always been there, but that you've been trained to overlook. You don't have to become a better version of yourself to deserve love, respect, or joy. You don't need to check off a list of accomplishments before you are allowed to feel good about who you are. You don't need to check off a list of accomplishments before you are allowed to feel good about who you are. You already deserve those things as much as anyone else does. Consider the way we view nature. A flower blooming in the wild doesn't demand your admiration. It simply exists, fully itself, whether anyone is watching or not. A river doesn't rush to its destination because it fears it will be judged for flowing too slowly. These things simply are, and in their being they are complete. And yet, as humans, we seem to have forgotten that we too are part of this same natural world. We've placed ourselves in a category of constant striving, forever reaching for a version of ourselves we think will be good enough. But if we can step back, even for a moment, we might see that just as the flower is whole and the river is enough, so too are we. Acting like you are enough doesn't mean you stop growing, learning, or improving. Growth is a natural part of life, and striving toward goals can be a beautiful thing. But there's a profound difference between growing because you feel inspired and growing because you feel inadequate. When you operate from a place of I am enough, your growth becomes an expression of joy, curiosity, and passion, rather than a desperate attempt to fill a perceived void. You're no longer chasing something outside yourself to feel worthy. You're exploring and expanding because that's what life invites you to do. What would change if you woke up tomorrow and acted like you were enough? Maybe you'd speak with more confidence, afraid of how others might perceive you. Maybe you'd stop holding back on pursuing something you've always wanted, no longer tied down by fear of failure. Maybe you'd be gentler with yourself, allowing space for mistakes and imperfections without letting them define you. Maybe you'd put yourself in position with a strong heart without letting them define you. In small, subtle ways, acting like you are enough creates a ripple effect that transforms your relationship with yourself and the world around you. The universe didn't place conditions on your existence. You are here not by accident or mistake, but because you belong here. There's nothing you need to prove, no grand achievement required to justify your place. The same life force that moves through the stars, the oceans, and the mountains flows through you. To act like you are enough is to honor that force, to trust that your very being is meaningful. So stop waiting. Stop postponing your life until you feel ready or worthy. Step into the moment as you are, with all your imperfections, doubts, and dreams. You are not just enough. You are part of the very fabric of existence, and that alone is extraordinary. There's a story we carry, a story so deeply woven into the fabric of our minds that it feels like truth. This story tells us that we are not enough. It whispers that we must become more, achieve more, prove more before we can truly be worthy of love, happiness, or peace. It's a story we didn't write, but one we inherited from society, from culture, from comparison. And like all powerful stories, it shapes how we see ourselves and the world around us. But today I invite you to consider something radical. What if that story is false? What if the belief that you are not enough is the greatest lie you've ever been told? From the moment we begin to understand the world, we are bombarded with messages that reinforce this lie. Advertisements tell us we need to look a certain way to be attractive, own certain things to be successful, or follow certain paths to be respected. Social media amplifies this message, showing us curated glimpses of other people's lives that seem perfect, making us feel that we are falling short. Even well-meaning loved ones, in their attempts to push us toward growth, may unintentionally sow seeds of doubt, leaving us to question whether we are good enough as we are. Over time, these messages build up like layers of armor, and we begin to see ourselves not as whole beings, but as works in progress, as if our worth is something we need to construct piece by piece. But here's the thing, your worth is not a project. It's not something you have to earn, build, or prove. You were born enough. Think about that for a moment. As a baby, you didn't have to do anything to be loved. Your existence was enough for people to hold you, care for you, and marvel at your presence. Somewhere along the way, we forget this simple truth. We start to tie our value to our achievements, our productivity, our ability to meet expectations. We shift from being human beings to human doings, caught in a constant cycle of striving and self-criticism. But life isn't about endless striving. It's not about reaching some final destination where you'll suddenly be good enough. Life is happening right now, in this moment, and you are already enough to participate in it fully. The idea that you need to fix or improve yourself before you can truly live is an illusion. You don't need to become someone else to deserve joy or fulfillment. The version of you that exists right now, with all your imperfections and uncertainties, is already deserving. When you act like you are enough, something profound begins to shift. You stop living from a place of lack, always chasing something external to fill an internal void. Instead, you start to live from a place of abundance, realizing that everything you need to feel whole is already within you. This doesn't mean you stop growing or setting goals. It means you stop tying your self-worth to the outcome. Growth becomes something you choose to pursue out of curiosity and passion, not out of fear that you are falling short. Imagine how freeing it would be to move through the world without constantly second-guessing yourself, to speak without fear of judgment, to try without fear of failure, to simply be without the weight of not enough holding you back. When you act like you are enough, you give yourself permission to be seen, to take up space, to share your voice. You recognize that your existence is not a mistake or an accident, but an expression of the universe itself. Look around you. The trees don't compare themselves to one another, wondering if they are tall enough or green enough. The ocean doesn't question whether its waves crash with enough force. They simply exist, fully and unapologetically. And just like them, you are an expression of life. Your value is not something you have to prove, it's something you already possess. So let go of the belief that you need to become more before you can truly live. Step into the truth that you are enough, not someday, but today. Not because of what you've done or what you will do, but simply because you are here. You are enough. You always have been, and you always will be. In the quiet moments of our lives, when we're left alone with our thoughts, we often hear a voice telling us that we're not enough. It's subtle, almost like background noise, but persistent. It says we should have done more, been more, achieved more. It tells us to look at others, at their successes, their talents, their beauty, and reminds us of all the ways we feel we fall short. This voice doesn't come from nowhere. It's the echo of a society built on comparison and competition, where worth seems tied to performance and love feels conditional. But what if we stopped listening to it? What if, instead of believing that voice, we questioned it? What if we chose, in this very moment, to act as though we are already enough? You might think that acting like you are enough is some form of arrogance, but it's not. It's not about inflating your ego or pretending to be perfect. It's about stepping into the quiet confidence of knowing that you don't need to fix yourself to be worthy. It's about realizing that you don't need anyone's permission to feel whole, or anyone's validation to know your value. Acting like you are enough is not a performance, it's a release, a letting go of the impossible standards you've been holding yourself to, and an acceptance of the truth that has always been there. When you start acting like you are enough, you begin to notice how much of your life has been spent waiting for the right time, the right version of yourself, the right level of success before you allow yourself to truly live. You've put off happiness, joy, and even self-acceptance, telling yourself it will come later once you've earned it. But life doesn't wait. It's happening right now. And every moment spent waiting is a moment lost. Acting like you are enough means choosing to participate in life fully, not someday but today. Imagine how it would feel to stop chasing after the approval of others, to stop measuring your worth by someone else's yardstick, to simply be yourself unapologetically and without pretense. When you act like you are enough, you stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward for peace. You realize that your value doesn't come from what you do, how you look, or what others think of you. It comes from the simple fact that you exist. There's a kind of magic that happens when you accept this. You stop holding back, you stop doubting whether you deserve a seat at the table or a place in the room. You begin to show up as your authentic self, no longer burdened by the fear of judgment or failure. And in doing so, you inspire others to do the same. Because when one person stands tall in their truth, it gives permission for everyone else to stand tall in theirs. This isn't about ignoring your flaws or pretending you don't have room to grow. Growth is a natural part of life, but it doesn't have to come from a place of feeling inadequate. It can come from a place of curiosity, excitement, and love. Acting like you are enough doesn't mean you stop improving. It means you stop improving to prove your worth. You grow because you want to, not because you feel you have to. This is enough to speed up, not slow down, your growth. You are not a product of your achievements. You are not defined by your mistakes or limited by your failures. You are not the sum of other people's opinions or the reflection of their expectations. You are a human being, messy and magnificent, full of contradictions and potential. Your worth isn't something that can be added to or taken away. It is inherent, unshakable, and unconditional. Acting like you are enough doesn't mean every day will be easy or every moment filled with confidence. There will still be times when doubt creeps in, when the old stories resurface, whispering that you're not good enough. But those moments don't define you. What matters is how you choose to respond. Do you listen to the doubts, Or do you remind yourself of the truth? So today, choose to act as though you are enough. Even if it feels unfamiliar, even if it feels uncomfortable, act as though you are enough because you are. You always have been and you always will be. The universe doesn't make mistakes, and your existence is proof of that. You are not here to prove yourself. You are here to live, to love, to grow, and to experience the fullness of life. And that, just as you are, is more than enough. Who was free? Imagine for a moment that you're already dead. All the burdens, the plans, the striving for something greater gone. You're no longer tethered to goals, expectations, or timelines. Free of them, you exist as a pure, unbounded presence. Now ask yourself, what would life look like if you carried this freedom with you here and now, while still alive? Imagine living each day with a vivid awareness that everything, your surroundings, your relationships, your dreams, even the very cells that make up your body, is transient. At first, such an awareness may sound unsettling. We spend much of our lives building, striving, holding on to things and people, planning for the future as if it's a fixed destination we are guaranteed to reach. But this notion of permanence, of continuity, is an illusion. Everything is constantly changing, shifting, in motion. Our lives, as much as we try to anchor them, are like rivers always flowing, never exactly the same from one moment to the next. By truly embracing life's temporary nature, a profound shift occurs. Suddenly, the weight of expectation lifts. The incessant worry about what might happen tomorrow, the regret over what happened yesterday, begins to fade. When we grasp the impermanence of everything around us, it invites a rare kind of freedom to exist here, in this moment, fully aware, fully engaged, and fully alive. Instead of rushing to the next goal or dwelling on what we have yet to achieve, we begin to value each breath, each experience, not as a stepping stone to some grand future, but as a precious moment that won't come again. This awareness does something remarkable to our relationships as well. When we recognize that each encounter, each conversation, each shared moment with another is fleeting, we approach these interactions with deeper gratitude and attention. We begin to see those around us not as fixtures in our lives, but as beautiful, dynamic presences who, like us, are passing through. Rather than taking people for granted or assuming they'll always be there, we cherish their presence and their unique contributions to our lives. We recognize that every relationship is a dance in time, shared for a while before we part ways, whether through distance, change, or the natural end of all things. The beauty of this temporary nature is that it allows us to let go of unnecessary burdens. We no longer feel compelled to hoard possessions, achievements, or experiences as if they define us. We understand that clinging to things, people, or even our own ideas is like trying to grasp water in our hands. The tighter we hold, the faster it slips away. But when we release our grip, we experience life as a flow, each moment following the next, naturally, without resistance. There's no need to control or dominate the world around us. Instead, we learn to move with it, to flow as part of it, savoring the richness of each experience as it comes. This mindset brings a lightness, a joy to our daily lives. The pressure to conform, to compete, to constantly strive for more becomes irrelevant. What matters instead is not the quantity of our days, but the quality of our presence within each one. Embracing the temporary nature of life is not about giving up on dreams or goals. It's about seeing them for what they are, brief and beautiful expressions of our time here. Rather than racing against the clock or fearing loss, we meet each moment with an open heart, recognizing its uniqueness and savoring it, fully aware that it will never be exactly the same again. And in this awareness we find a calm, steady contentment, rooted not in what we can hold on to, but in our willingness to let go. Imagine the things you hold dear, your favorite possessions, the people you cherish, the routines and comforts that shape your life. Now imagine, just for a moment, loosening your grip on all of them. What if, rather than clinging tightly, you could simply let them be, recognizing that none of these things define you or your essence? This idea, the act of releasing attachments, challenges our deepest instincts, because from an early age we are conditioned to hold on, to accumulate, and to define ourselves by what we own and who we know. Possessions become extensions of ourselves, relationships, achievements, and routines become the scaffolding on which we build our identity. Yet if we look closely, this structure is fragile and transient. Attachments are like knots that bind us, creating an illusion of permanence in a world that is inherently impermanent. Releasing attachments is not about renouncing everything or distancing ourselves from those we care about. It's about recognizing that clinging tightly to anything creates a kind of internal bondage. When we are overly attached, our sense of worth and well-being hinges on external things, on people acting a certain way, on objects staying pristine, on outcomes unfolding as we desire. This dependency leaves us vulnerable, as each attachment becomes a potential source of anxiety and suffering. We fear loss, we fear change, and we fear the impermanence that is an unavoidable aspect of life. But imagine if instead we could approach these aspects of our lives with a sense of appreciation and ease, fully aware that they are temporary gifts rather than permanent parts of our being. In releasing attachments, we find a deeper freedom. With this shift, possessions become tools rather than trophies, and relationships become experiences rather than entitlements. You may still have meaningful possessions, but they are no longer the core of your identity. Relationships flourish, not because you are trying to hold on to others, but because you appreciate them for who they are in each moment. Rather than trying to control or preserve what we have, we start to see the natural ebb and flow of everything around us. We learn to embrace the richness of each encounter, each moment, without needing to capture or claim it as our own. This freedom from attachment transforms our lives on a practical level, too. Our priorities shift and life becomes simpler, clearer. When we are no longer consumed by the need to accumulate, we find ourselves more present, more attentive, and more receptive to what is unfolding. The material pursuits, while enjoyable, lose their urgency, allowing us to place our energy into experiences, relationships, and moments of creativity and growth. We become less fixated on outcomes, more attuned to the process. Rather than rushing to acquire or achieve, we are able to savor the journey. When we free ourselves from the heavy burden of attachment, we lighten our spirit. We cultivate resilience, not by building walls or protections, but by realizing that true security comes from within. It is the security of knowing that we are whole, even without the trappings we once believed defined us. By releasing attachments, we invite life to flow more freely, unhindered by expectations or possessiveness. And in this space of openness and acceptance, we find a profound peace, a quiet joy that isn't dependent on any particular person, place, or thing, but is woven into the very fabric of being alive. Imagine a life where the fear of failure no longer dictates your choices or limits your actions. For many, the thought of failing, whether in a career, relationship, or personal endeavor, brings an overwhelming sense of dread. Failure often feels like a mark against our character, a reflection of inadequacy, or a confirmation of our deepest insecurities. This fear can shape our lives, subtly directing us away from what we truly desire or believe in. Yet if we examine this fear closely, we begin to see that failure itself is not the enemy. It is our attachment to the outcome, our desire for control, and our fear of judgment that create the weight of failure. When we act as though we're already free from these constraints, as if failure no longer holds power over us, the landscape of possibility expands immeasurably. And to diminish the fear of failure is to recognize that failure, in its essence, is just another experience. It does not define us, nor does it detract from our inherent worth. Each attempt, whether it ends in success or failure, teaches us something valuable about ourselves and the world around us. By viewing failure as a natural part of growth rather than an indication of inadequacy, we remove its sting. We no longer feel the need to protect ourselves from missteps or setbacks, because we understand that these experiences are part of the journey. Each so-called failure becomes a stepping stone, revealing a new insight, a new perspective, or an opportunity to refine our approach. This shift in perspective is liberating. When the fear of failure fades, we find ourselves more willing to take risks, try new things, and pursue dreams we once considered out of reach. The paralysis of perfectionism, which often stems from a fear of failing, begins to loosen its grip. We realize that life doesn't demand flawlessness, it only asks for authenticity, for a sincere effort. With this mindset, we approach challenges with curiosity rather than apprehension. We're open to experimentation, knowing that the outcome, whatever it may be, will enrich our understanding and add depth to our lives. In relinquishing the fear of failure, we also become more compassionate toward ourselves. Rather than berating ourselves for mistakes, we learn to accept them as part of our human experience. This self-acceptance brings a sense of resilience and inner strength that no amount of external success can provide. When we are no longer fixated on avoiding failure, we become more receptive to growth and change, adapting more gracefully to the unexpected. Life becomes less about winning or losing and more about experiencing, learning, and evolving. Additionally, by letting go of the fear of failure, we influence those around us in profound ways. When others see us navigating life without being burdened by this fear, it encourages them to do the same. Our courage becomes a quiet invitation for others to explore their potential without the constraints of self-doubt. In this way, our release from the fear of failure fosters an environment where creativity, innovation, and authentic expression flourish. This newfound courage also reshapes how we perceive success. We stop equating success with perfection and start seeing it as the willingness to try, to learn, and to grow. Success becomes less about achieving specific outcomes and more about living with intention and integrity, regardless of the result. In the end, the fear of failure diminishes not because we eliminate the possibility of failing, but because we stop viewing failure as something to be feared. It becomes simply one aspect of a life fully lived, a marker of our courage to pursue what is meaningful. With each step forward, regardless of the outcome, we cultivate a freedom that allows us to truly explore and appreciate the richness of life. When we turn our gaze inward, seeking to understand the essence of existence, we encounter a space beyond distractions, ambitions, and superficial goals. The world around us often encourages a focus on achievements, titles, and material successes as markers of a meaningful life. But when we look deeper, we realize that these external pursuits, while satisfying on the surface, rarely provide lasting fulfillment. Beneath the layers of what society deems important lies the essence of existence, a state of being that transcends appearances, roles, and possessions. It's a journey into the core of what it means to be alive, a journey that asks us to explore life's fundamental beauty and richness without the filters of expectation or demand. To focus on the essence of existence means stripping away the unnecessary layers that accumulate as we navigate life. We begin to notice how often we are driven by concerns of future goals or past regrets, perpetually planning, striving, and evaluating. These mental habits draw us away from the present, clouding our ability to fully experience the moment at hand. Yet the essence of existence is found not in the plans we make or the successes we achieve, but in the simple act of being fully awake, fully alive in each moment. It's a state that doesn't ask for accolades or recognition, it simply is. By focusing on this essence, we reconnect with a deeper sense of self, one that doesn't rely on external validation. In this state, we find a natural contentment and peace. We recognize that life's true value isn't found in what we can gain or accomplish, but in the awareness we bring to each experience. A conversation with a loved one, a quiet walk in nature, even a moment of solitude becomes profound when we engage with it fully, free from the need to make it mean something more. This openness allows us to witness the beauty and complexity of existence without the weight of expectation or the urge to control every detail. We experience life as it unfolds, realizing that each moment holds a richness we often overlook in our hurry to move on to the next. This focus also reshapes our understanding of purpose. Many of us are taught that purpose is something to be attained, a goal that lies somewhere in the future. But when we connect with the essence of existence, purpose is no longer a distant objective, it becomes an inherent quality of being alive. Every moment, every breath holds purpose simply because it exists. Life's meaning is no longer tied to what we accomplish, but to how we experience each day. This perspective brings a profound sense of freedom. We stop searching outside ourselves for validation or meaning and begin to see that simply being present, aware, and open is enough. When we connect with this essence, our relationships deepen. We begin to see others not as extensions of our own desires or as players in the drama of our lives, but as beings with their own unique expressions of existence. We appreciate them for who they are, not for what they can provide or how they fit into our story. In this way, our interactions become more genuine, less transactional, and filled with a warmth that comes from truly seeing and valuing the other. We listen more deeply, speak with sincerity, and offer compassion because we recognize the shared essence that binds us all. The essence of existence invites us to release the burdens of comparison, judgment, and control. We come to see that life is an unfolding mystery, one that doesn't require us to solve it, but to live it fully. By focusing on this essence, we access a profound sense of peace, a connection to something timeless and infinite that goes beyond our individual identities and desires. This focus grants us the ability to move through life with a lightness and joy that isn't dependent on circumstances or outcomes. In every moment, we are invited to experience life not as a series of tasks to complete, but as a sacred expression of existence itself. Accepting peace in the face of mortality is one of the most challenging yet liberating perspectives we can adopt. Mortality is an inescapable truth woven into the very fabric of life. From the moment we take our first breath, the reality of an eventual last breath is already present, a quiet but constant companion. While this may seem daunting, even frightening, to embrace mortality is to embrace the full spectrum of life itself. By accepting the finiteness of our time, we are paradoxically freed, finding a profound peace and clarity in knowing that every moment is precious and not to be taken for granted. Mortality is often shrouded in fear and avoidance. Many of us live as though death is a distant reality, something that happens to others but not to us, at least not anytime soon. This illusion can lead us to prioritize things that in the grand scheme are trivial. We become wrapped up in trivial conflicts, petty grievances, and endless pursuits for status or possessions. But when we bring mortality into focus, the unnecessary noise falls away, revealing what truly matters. This awareness invites us to reevaluate our choices, relationships, and priorities, allowing us to live with more intention and authenticity. To accept mortality is not to resign oneself to a bleak inevitability, but to recognize the natural cycle of existence. In nature, everything exists within a balance of birth and decay, growth and dissolution. Trees grow, bloom, shed their leaves, and eventually return to the earth to nourish new life. Stars shine brilliantly, burn out, and make way for new constellations. In this vast interconnected cycle, we too have our moment. When we accept our place in this order, we see that life's impermanence does not diminish its value, but enriches it. Knowing our time is limited enhances our ability to appreciate the present, to truly be present in our experiences, and to savor the beauty that surrounds us. This acceptance also transforms how we face challenges and adversity. With mortality as a backdrop, the fear of failure, rejection, or judgment fades. What once seemed daunting now feels less significant, for we understand that life is too brief to be paralyzed by such fears. Each obstacle or setback becomes a chance to experience life fully, to learn and grow without the weight of unnecessary anxieties. There is peace in this approach, a sense that no matter the outcome, we are living sincerely, with courage and openness. Accepting peace in the face of mortality also deepens our relationships. Recognizing that our loved ones are also part of this finite journey inspires us to cherish them with greater intensity. We find ourselves more patient, more compassionate, and more willing to express gratitude. Small misunderstandings lose their importance as we see the bigger picture. We begin to prioritize connection, understanding, and forgiveness over grudges and pride. Time with loved ones becomes sacred, not to be taken for granted or overshadowed by trivial conflicts. Embracing mortality helps us cultivate a sense of gratitude for every day. Each sunrise, each shared laugh, each quiet moment becomes a gift. We start to appreciate the ordinary moments as extraordinary simply because they are happening in the now. This gratitude fosters a contentment that doesn't hinge on external achievements or material wealth, but is rooted in the sheer privilege of being alive, of experiencing life's joys and sorrows, of being part of the ebb and flow of existence. By accepting peace in the face of mortality, we allow ourselves to be fully human. We embrace the fragility and beauty of our lives, realizing that life's transience is what makes it so precious. The fear of mortality, when transformed into acceptance, opens the door to a deep, abiding peace. We no longer need to run from death or ignore it. Instead, we meet it with understanding and respect, knowing that it is a natural part of our journey. In this acceptance, we find the courage to live with openness and grace, embracing the impermanent beauty of every moment. Finding true freedom and purpose is an inward journey, one that often requires us to let go of external expectations, societal pressures, and even our own conditioned beliefs about what we should be doing. Freedom, in the truest sense, is not about avoiding constraints or obligations, but about understanding what truly matters to us and choosing to live in alignment with that inner truth. Purpose, likewise, is less about achieving specific milestones and more about the depth of our connection to what we do, the meaning we find in our actions, and the sense of fulfillment that arises from living a life that feels authentic. In the quest for freedom, many of us initially look outside ourselves, hoping that certain achievements, relationships, or experiences will grant us a lasting sense of liberation. We work tirelessly for financial security, recognition, and approval, thinking that once we attain these, we'll be free. Yet, ironically, the more we chase these external validations, the more we find ourselves bound by them. We become attached to outcomes, fearing failure, rejection, or loss, which leads us into cycles of anxiety and dissatisfaction. True freedom begins when we recognize that our worth and peace do not rely on anything outside of us. This freedom lies in the ability to make choices that reflect our genuine values and desires, rather than those imposed by others or by fleeting cultural trends. This internal freedom opens the door to discovering a deeper, more genuine sense of purpose. Purpose is not a single, definitive answer to the question of why am I here, but rather a continuous exploration of how we choose to live, what we value, and what brings us fulfillment. When we stop looking at purpose as a fixed destination and begin to see it as something that evolves and changes with us, we experience a new kind of openness. Purpose becomes less about fulfilling a role or achieving success and more about finding ways to contribute to the world that feel meaningful to us, no matter how grand or humble those ways may be. A life lived with true freedom and purpose is one where we're no longer confined by fears of failure or judgment. We act not to impress or please others, but because we're motivated by a sense of alignment with our inner values. This brings a sense of joy and fulfillment that isn't conditional on external approval. We pursue our passions, engage in relationships, and make choices that genuinely resonate with us, trusting that this alignment brings more satisfaction than any external reward could provide. In this state, even the most routine tasks or humble moments can feel rich with meaning, because they reflect our authentic selves. True freedom and purpose also allow us to face challenges and hardships with resilience. When our actions stem from a place of inner clarity, obstacles become less daunting. We see them not as threats to our happiness or success, but as opportunities to grow and refine our understanding of ourselves and the world. This perspective gives us the courage to take risks, to be vulnerable, and to embrace life's uncertainties with an open heart. We realize that setbacks and difficulties are simply part of the journey, and that they, too, contribute to a life lived fully and sincerely. In finding freedom and purpose, we deepen our connections with others as well. We engage in relationships not out of need or dependency, but from a place of genuine affection and shared values. We're less inclined to judge or compare, and more interested in supporting and understanding those around us. Our interactions become richer, more compassionate, and more rewarding as we're able to appreciate others for who they are rather than how they fit into our own narratives. This approach to life fosters a profound sense of gratitude and contentment. Instead of constantly seeking what's next, we learn to savor what is, finding fulfillment in the present moment. We realize that the true measure of a life well lived is not in what we accumulate or achieve, but in the depth of our presence and engagement with the world around us. With this understanding, each day becomes an opportunity to live purposefully and freely, experiencing the richness of existence without the constraints of ego or fear. True freedom and purpose lie in embracing the fullness of who we are and allowing that authenticity to shape our choices and actions. By letting go of the need to conform to external expectations or to chase elusive ideals, we create a life that feels uniquely and wholly our own. This journey isn't always easy, but it brings us closer to a sense of peace, fulfillment, and connection that no external accomplishment could ever replicate. In embracing true freedom and purpose, we step into a life that is rich, authentic, and profoundly fulfilling. This journey calls us to look inward, to shed the layers of expectation and fear, and to align with what genuinely resonates within us. It invites us to find value not in fleeting successes or societal approval, but in the depth of our presence and the sincerity of our actions. Through this alignment, we discover that freedom is not the absence of responsibility, but the liberty to choose a life that reflects our truest selves. Purpose, too, is not a single destination, but an evolving sense of meaning woven into each day, each relationship, and each decision we make. By living from this place, we cultivate a peace that endures beyond circumstance, allowing us to face life's uncertainties with courage and grace. Ultimately, this is the journey to a life well lived, where freedom and purpose coalesce into a profound, unshakable joy, rooted not in what we achieve, but in who we truly are.